Welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the company behind this podcast and other great programs, like Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, which provides $2,000 cash scholarships to third-year law students and internships to second-year law students, along with leadership training and mentors. And Journey to Esquire, the blog, which provides insightful articles to help navigate you through law school and beyond. Find out more on our website, www.journeytoesquire.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the Journey to Esquire podcast. I'm your host, Abigail Dean, and today we have a special guest, Azmatullah Mustahsan. Both me and Azmatullah are colleagues. We both work at the State Attorney's office here in Tampa, Florida. I want to bring you back to the beginning of your journey in law and talk about why did you decide to become a lawyer?
Right. So honestly, I did not want to become a lawyer when I first got out of high school. A lot of my family members, a lot of my cousins were all doing some sort of engineering or some sort of computer science. So I always thought that was the route I was going to go. But once math started looking like hieroglyphics, I decided this is probably not for me. And I started taking a couple law classes. And at that point, I found it unbelievably interesting and a lot of fun. So as I took more and more, I finally decided, hey, being a lawyer might be for me. And I pursued it from there.
Oh, okay. That is interesting. Because math and law are definitely on the opposite sides of the spectrum. But yeah, so in terms of where did you go for undergrad? Where did you go for undergrad and where did you go for law school?
So for undergrad, I graduated from the University of Buffalo, go Bulls. And for law school, I went to Western Michigan University Cooley Law School.
Okay. And how was that process in terms of law school overall? Can you talk about whether you enjoyed law school and what did you enjoy most about your being in law school?
Contradictory to other people, I really did enjoy law school. I think it was an amazing experience. It was definitely a lot of work. It was definitely very stressful, but I enjoyed every aspect of it. I think my favorite part of law school was definitely the people that I met and the connections that I built with the close group of friends that I had, and not only them, but the professors, the teachers, the judges that we got to interact with. That was invaluable, just having them as teachers and mentors, and just learning about the law from them really helped my interest in wanting to become a lawyer.
Yeah, that absolutely, you spoke on something, connections, which was something that I remember even when I was going to law school, that they emphasized just making sure that you network, because they emphasize the importance of doing so, because the connections that we make in law school, the connections that we make outside of law school, these connections are are building blocks in relationship to our career. So, you may meet somebody in law school 1 year, and then 6 years later or 7 years later, that's that same person that's going to give you your next job. So I love the fact that you spoke on connections and the importance of that. But in terms of, can you speak to it, or did you have that experience after law school of connections, of the connections that you made in law school that they were helpful in building up to your career?
Yeah, I would say so. We met a lot of judges while in law school, and a lot of those judges really recommended going the state attorney route or the public defender route, because I always wanted to have some sort of trial experience underneath my belt. And the only way to do that, in my opinion, was to do state or to do the PDs, which the judges also helped fill that in. And because of their influence and their direction, it really helped me pick being a criminal state attorney, a prosecutor. And those connections, like when I went back and I met with these judges and talked to them after the fact, after I had gotten the job or after I had passed the bar, they were excited. And the fact that they still remembered me after all that time, even through COVID and all the issues that we had through law school, that they still remembered me it felt amazing that even a person at this position, a judge, could remember someone as just a law student at that point. And yeah.
So in terms of, I want to talk a little bit about your law school application process. How was that process for you? Were you one of the individuals who took the LSAT during undergraduate year or right after undergraduate year? Can you speak more as to that process?
Yeah. So it was my second or third year of undergrad that I decided, you know what, I want to be a lawyer. So at that point, I started taking all the law classes and started prepping for the LSAT. When undergrad finally ended, a couple months after was the first LSAT testing. And that is when I took my first LSAT. I did all right, but not as well as I wanted. So I did it again and took it to get a better score, which I did. The process after that was just as grueling. The application process is definitely not easy. They ask a lot of questions. They ask for a lot of documents, but it really made the experience one to remember, because when you go through all those struggles, these are the things that stick in your head. Like, I overcame this. I overcame the LSAT. I overcame the application process to get into law school, to get accepted. Yeah. And that really made the experience a lot better.
Yeah. Did you take that, it sounds like you're talking about having a persistent mindset, which even in the beginning of law school applications, and what a lot of people don't realize is that you have to, that's the mindset that you have to have even in the application process. It's the mindset you have to have during law school. It's also the mindset that you have in taking the bar exam, because it is that level of having that mindset is a huge thing when it comes down to taking the bar exam. And so can you walk us through kind of, your journey in terms of the bar exam and having that persistent mindset in being able to get to the place that you are now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the bar exam was probably the biggest hurdle I've ever had to experience in my life thus far. When I first got out of law school and took the bar exam, I didn't appreciate how difficult it was. I thought it was going to be study the same way I did throughout law school, and I'll be fine and I'll pass it. And so my first time, I struggled. I really did. The second time, I hunkered down. And I put in hours, 10-hour days, weekends, didn't go out, didn't see friends. And my second time was not great either. I unfortunately missed the bar by 2 points.
Oh, wow.
And so at that point, I really contemplated giving up. I was like, is this for me? I've put in all this time, I've put in all this effort, and still I'm coming up short. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Thanks to my friends, to my family, to my mentors, all telling me, you know what, take it one more time. Be persistent. Don't give up. This is just a bump in the road. And I did it once more, and luckily third time was the charm, and that was the time I finally passed. And I can tell anyone who's taking the bar exam or going to take the bar exam, when you do get that pass, or you see that pass come through, the weight that's lifted off your shoulder, you can't describe. And how happy you feel, it can't be described. I'm so thankful that it took me 3 times to take the bar exam, because had I taken it the first time, I wouldn't have appreciated just how tough the exam was.
Yeah.
Taking it that second and third time definitely got me to the point where I am today, that it makes me work a lot harder. It makes me want to put in the effort to get to where I want to get to.
Yeah. Now, you spoke on something that was very important, having people who push you, and how crucial was that? Like, having those individuals around you to push you to take it to the third time. Do you think, looking back, do you think if you didn't have these people that you would be here today?
No, absolutely not. I think that having a good support system is necessary. Whether it be your parents or your siblings or even like a close friend, just to have someone to talk to, someone to vent to about the stresses that you are going through every single day. Because a lot of people don't realize just how stressful studying for the bar exam is.
Yeah.
Mind, body, and soul all get tested to the max. And if I didn't have someone to talk to or someone to vent to or to have them keep pushing me, I wouldn't be here. I would have given up. I would have said, you know what, this test is way too hard. But because of their belief in me, I was able to succeed. And I'm forever thankful for all of them.
Yeah. So after the bar exam, you mentioned earlier that you wanted to do prosecution work. Did you know that you wanted to do that work from being in law school? Like, what inspired that journey to be a prosecutor during law school? Yeah,
so I enjoy the law, I really do. But I am not the type of person who likes to sit behind a desk all day reading contracts and writing motions. Yeah. I would like to be up in front of a courtroom, talking, making arguments. It helps make the day go by just a little bit quicker. And so when I started taking my crim classes and trial ed classes, that's when I really realized, like, this is what I want to do. This is the type of law I want to practice. Because these lawyers are up there every single day fighting the good fight, And they're not just sitting behind a desk talking through motions and never getting to either know their clients or to know any of the other people in the legal system. So after taking a couple trial ed classes, I was like, this is the path for me. And that's why I went to criminal prosecution.
So what advice would you offer to new and future law students?
Ooh, new and future law students. Don't give up. Keep pushing. Because I remember my first year of law school, that was a tough year. You're thrown into studying and prepping in a way you've never done it before. You're introduced to the Socratic method, and professors are just calling you, and you have to come up with an answer. And it is stressful for anyone who's coming in and has no idea what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But if you're able to stick past that first year, if you're able to keep pushing past that, it is one of the most rewarding experiences. You have to just grind it out. And if you can get to that point, you will be very happy, in my opinion.
Yeah. The don't give up mindset. Even I've been practicing law for about closer to a year and a half now. And I do have my moments where I still have to have that mindset of not giving up. Even going through law school and taking the bar exam and up to this point. And so I definitely agree with what you're saying. That mindset is what's going to carry you throughout this law career. Okay, so what is something that people will be surprised to learn about you?
What would be something that someone would be surprised to learn about me? Is that I am honestly a very quiet, introverted person. Like, I really don't like going out and talking to people as much as it may seem. I enjoy being a prosecutor. I enjoy making the arguments, but I would rather be at home with a book or a good TV show than being out and about and, partying all the time.
Do you think that there's an aspect of being introverted that helps you in your career?
Yeah, I think so. Well, let me say that. I think that being an introvert is different than what majority of attorneys are. I think a lot of attorneys are extroverted people. They enjoy going out, talking. It's what their parents would always say. Like, you always loved arguing. You'd always love to go and talk to people and make your point to them, whether it was right or wrong. That would be the type of person that an attorney kind of is, in my, but for me, I always like being in the background. I enjoy seeing what's going on and then making an opinion or making an informed decision at that point. I don't like being front and center.
Yeah. I'm introverted as well. So I definitely see what you're talking about as we get an opportunity to step back and to analyze the situation and to soak up everything that is in front of us. Even when we're in front of an attorney, I think a part of me, especially when I was in law school, I used to be very insecure about my just how I was, my shyness. Because with introvertedness, for me in particular, there's a level of shyness that comes with being that and not speaking up. And as again, we process things a lot slower. And so I've learned being in this job, the importance of taking aspects of who I am and just like my introvertedness and bringing it to the courtroom, but being able to allow myself to be my full self. Like being my full self is something that was huge and that I definitely struggled with in the beginning of my journey. Especially
you grow into it almost, you know?
Yeah, you do. So even if, some people believe, as an attorney, you shouldn't have struggles with public speaking.
Oh, all the time.
It's like, no, those habits, when you become an attorney, those things that you have, embodied, those character traits that you've embodied all your life, it doesn't go away. You just learn how to navigate it, as a lawyer. So have you had those same experiences where there's like certain character traits that law itself that you almost like this trying to navigate, the tug of war of being yourself, but also being like presenting yourself as confident? Because that sometimes, as I said before, shyness, right? Sometimes if you're shy, it's kind of hard to be confident in front of a judge, especially if a judge is acting a certain way. Like pushing yourself to be yourself, but also being able to present your way that is confident as an attorney.
And I think that's a struggle that a lot of people have, is that it's showing that confidence, because when you're up in the courtroom, you can't show weakness, right? You can't. Yeah. You got to be up there, and you got to advocate for us. In our case, the state. We have to advocate for the state and make sure that we are doing the best we can for our client.
Yeah.
And going up there, showing weakness, showing fear, it's not the greatest thing in the world. But for example, for me, my very first trial, I remember I let my fear of public speaking, my shyness get to me. And that I struggled with my very first trial. But after some practice, after sticking with it, I learned that I can be shy, I can be introverted personally in my own time.
Yeah.
But when it comes time to be in front of the courtroom, you gotta, I imagine myself as like a character almost.
Yeah.
That Ozzy is going up to make the argument, and Ozzy is the most confident person. Azmatullah may be shy, maybe introverted, maybe whatever. Ozzy, he's going to go up there and he's going to be the most confident person and do the best he can for his client.
Yeah.
So I think it's very being persistent and just sticking with it.
Yeah, and I think it automatically pushes you out of your comfort zone. Like if you're willing to allow it to. So as you said, like when you are in a position where you have to be confident, and so you have to you have to decide, okay, I'm going to push that level of that individual of who I am, that side of who I am that would normally crumble under pressure, that would normally be shy in this situation, and stand up and go, as we said, mentally and mentioned earlier, not give up, have a strong mindset and go, okay, we have to push forward. Because I think for a huge part of me getting over that in the beginning of my career, and when I was in the courtroom, in my first courtroom that I was in, was, okay, thinking about the victims, thinking about my supervisors, thinking about that, what I'm doing is not just a representation of myself, but it's also a representation of those that are around me. And so the more I did it, practice make perfect. So the more I did it, the more I got over issues with public speaking, the more I got over my shyness, and the more I was able to be more confident to be able to speak up, because, it's just a willingness to grow.
I think it definitely helps the personality, and it helps us grow as people, that for us who are shy, right? Like we don't want to go into positions where we're put on display, but when we're in court, we're forced to. And I think that's helped quite a bit, just doing trials, getting the experience to get at least me out of my shell, to allow me to do these things that I never thought I would, prior to this.
Yeah, it definitely pushes us out of our comfort zone and allows us to grow. But That's all we have for you today. I do want to thank you so much for your time, and we definitely appreciate you taking your time to talk to our listeners. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Of course, anytime. Thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. Have a good one.
Right.
Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Support, share, subscribe. And for more, visit www.journeytoesquire.com.